The alarm bells screamed through the metal corridors of Galactic Monitoring Station Theta 7. Red lights flashed on every wall as officers rushed to their posts. Commander Veltar had never heard the station's systems make sounds like this in his 20 years of service. "What is happening?" he shouted over the noise, his forearms working frantically at the control panels. His blue skin had turned pale with worry. "Sir, we have a massive contact," his aide called back, pointing at the main screen. "Something big just crossed into protected space. Really big." Veltar stared at the readings. The numbers made no sense. The energy signature was enormous, but the ship's design looked crude and simple. It was like seeing a stone axe that could somehow cut through diamond. "Run it through the database," he ordered. "Find out what species builds ships like this." Minutes passed. The computer searched through millions of known vessel designs from across the galaxy. Nothing matched. "Sir," the aide's voice was shaking. "Now. The computer says this design doesn't exist in our records, but sir, there's something else. The ship is broadcasting something. Put it on the main speakers." Static filled the room for a moment. Then a voice came through, speaking in clear galactic standard with a strange but pleasant accent. "This is Captain Kim Day of the United Earthship Determination. We are requesting permission to speak with the Galactic Council. We come in peace." The control room went completely silent. Even the alarm bells seemed to stop. Every officer stared at the speakers like they had just heard a ghost. "Did he say Earth?" whispered the aide. Commander Veltar felt his blood turn cold. Earth. Humans. The species that had destroyed itself 300 years ago in primitive nuclear wars. Every schoolchild in the galaxy learned about them as an example of what happened to violent, stupid species. "That's impossible," Veltar said, but his voice was weak. "Humans are extinct. We have the reports. We surveyed their system after the wars ended. Nothing but dead rocks and radiation." The voice came through the speakers again, patient and calm. "Commander Veltar of Station Theta 7, we can see you scanning our ship. We know you are confused. We understand you believed we were gone. We have been watching your people for a very long time, and we think it is time to talk." Veltar's four hearts nearly stopped. The human knew his name, knew his station designation. How was that possible? "Sir," another officer called from across the room. "I'm reading the ship's power levels. Commander, this thing could destroy our entire station with one shot. But they're just sitting there waiting." Veltar looked at the tactical display. The human ship was indeed massive, bristling with weapons that looked primitive but somehow felt dangerous. It was like looking at a sleeping giant that could wake up at any moment. "Open a channel," he said finally. His voice was barely above a whisper. "This is Commander Veltar of Galactic Monitoring Station Theta 7. Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Council space. You must leave immediately." There was a pause. Then Captain Kim Day's voice returned, and Veltar could hear something like amusement in it. "Commander, we appreciate your position, but we are not leaving. We have traveled very far to be here, and we have important things to discuss with your leaders. We have been patient for many years, but our patience has limits." "You don't understand," Veltar said, trying to sound official and commanding. "This is restricted space. The Council has laws. You cannot just appear here and make demands." "Commander." The human voice was still calm, still patient. But now there was something else, underneath it, something that made Veltar's skin crawl. "We have been watching your council for 3 centuries. We know your laws. We know your customs. We know things about your people that your people don't know about themselves. We are not making demands. We are making an offer." The control room was completely silent now. Officers stood frozen at their stations, afraid to move or speak. "What kind of offer?" Veltar asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "The offer to talk instead of act. Commander, right now there are 47 human ships, positioned throughout Council space. You cannot see them because we do not want you to see them. But they are there, watching, waiting. We could have announced ourselves very differently, but we chose to be polite." Veltar felt sick. 47 ships, throughout Council space. How long had they been there? "This is impossible," he said. "Our sensors would have detected you." Commander, you still think we are the same primitive species that destroyed itself centuries ago? You are wrong. We learned. We adapted, we survived, and now we are here. The human ship just floated there in space, silent and patient, waiting. On his screens, Veltar could see it was not moving, not charging weapons, not doing anything threatening. But somehow that made it more frightening, not less. His hands shaking, Veltar reached for the emergency communication system that would connect him directly to Council headquarters. The galaxy was about to learn that one of its oldest assumptions had been completely wrong. Humans were not extinct. They had been hiding, and now they were ready to come out of the shadows. Ambassador Thexelon adjusted his ceremonial robes as his transport ship approached Station Theta 7. He had dealt with primitive species before. They were always the same, confused, frightened, and easy to manage once you showed them the power of the Galactic Council. Ambassador, his assistant said nervously, the readings from their ship are still confusing our computers. Should we bring more security? Thexelon waved one of his 6 hands dismissively. These humans destroyed themselves centuries ago. Whatever survivors crawled out of their dead world cannot be very dangerous. I will handle this quickly and return home for dinner. But when Thexelon arrived at the station, Commander Veltar looked like he had seen a monster. Ambassador, thank the stars you are here, Veltar said, his blue skin still pale with fear. These humans, they know things. They know things they should not know. Calm yourself, Commander, Thexelon said smoothly. I am here now. Where are these primitive survivors? They are coming aboard now, sir. They just walked through our shields like they were not there. Before Thexelon could ask what that meant, the transport bay doors opened. 2 figures walked in wearing simple dark uniforms that looked almost military but somehow different. They walked with confidence, like they owned the station. The first was a man of medium height with short black hair and calm dark eyes. The second was a woman, slightly shorter, with her hair pulled back neatly. Both looked completely relaxed, like they were visiting friends instead of entering alien territory. Ambassador Thexelon, the man said in perfect galactic standard, bowing slightly. I am Captain Kim Day. This is my diplomatic officer, Lieutenant Park Yoon. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Thexelon stared. The human knew his name, his rank, and spoke their language without any translator device. This was not normal for a primitive species. How do you know our language? He demanded. Lieutenant Park smiled. We have been listening to your broadcast for over 200 years, Ambassador. We are fast learners. Impossible. Our surveys showed your planet was dead. Radiation levels were too high for any life. Captain Day nodded calmly. Your surveys were limited to what you consider habitable zones. You looked for life like yours, in conditions comfortable for your species. Humans adapt, Ambassador. We learned to live in the radiation. We learned to thrive in places you would consider death, worlds. Thexelon felt the first stirring of real concern. You are saying you survived on your dead planet? Not just survived, Park said. We grew, we spread, we learned to live on worlds with crushing gravity, toxic atmospheres, and deadly radiation. We found homes in systems you marked as impossible for life. How many of you are there? Thexelon asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. Currently, approximately 800 billion humans live across 47 star systems, Day said as casually as discussing the weather. The number hit Thexelon like a physical blow. 800 billion? That was larger than most council species. And 47 systems? That was a major galactic power. You are lying, he said weakly. Lieutenant Park activated a small device on her wrist. Holographic images filled the air around them. Cities on worlds with purple skies. Massive space stations orbiting dead stars. Ships moving between systems that the Council had marked as empty. The Kepler system, which you call uninhabitable due to its twin suns, Park said, pointing to one image. Home to 60 million humans. The Wolf system too cold for most life. 40 million humans live in underground cities there. Thexelon stared at the images. They were real. He could see the detail, the life, the thriving civilization that had been growing right under the Council's nose. But why? He asked. Why hide? Why not contact us before? Captain Day's expression grew serious. Because we studied you first, Ambassador. We watched how the Council treats new species, how you guide them into dependency, how you control their growth, how you decide which species deserve to survive. We help younger species develop safely, Thexelon protested. You help them develop into what you want them to be, Park corrected. The Zeltari were explorers before they joined the Council. Now they are farmers. The Vikori were warriors. Now they are merchants. You change species to fit your needs. That is stability. That is peace. That is control, Dee said quietly. Humans learned a long time ago that survival means staying free. We watched your council for centuries, learning your ways, your strengths, your weaknesses. We decided to grow strong before we revealed ourselves. Thexelon felt dizzy. What do you want from us? We want to talk, Dee said. As equals, not as primitives seeking guidance, not as children needing protection, as equals. The Council does not negotiate with unknown species, Thexelon said, but his voice lacked confidence. Park smiled again, but this time there was something sharp in it. Ambassador, we are not unknown. We know you. We know your military positions, your trade routes, your political structure. We know which council members vote together and which ones hate each other. We have been watching, learning, preparing. For what? For this conversation, Day said. The question now is whether the council is ready to have it as equals, or whether we need to demonstrate why treating us as primitives would be a mistake. Thexelon looked at these two calm humans and realized that everything he thought he knew about the galaxy had just changed. The Council was about to face something they had never encountered before, a species that had been watching them as carefully as they watched others. Fleet Admiral Korvek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the mighty Thunderstrike, watching his fleet take position. 12 heavy cruisers arranged in perfect attack formation. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. He smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Admiral, his weapons officer reported, all ships are in position. The human vessel has not moved. Korvex looked at the tactical display. The single human ship floated alone in space, looking small and helpless compared to his massive fleet. It was like a single fish facing a pack of sharks. Open a channel to all ships, he commanded. His voice carried across the communication system to every vessel in his fleet. Today we teach these primitive humans about council power. They will learn to respect their betters. On the bridge of the UES Determination, Captain Kim Day watched the alien fleet with calm eyes. His crew worked quietly at their stations, showing no fear or excitement. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Sir, reported Sergeant Lee Bo from the weapons station. The enemy fleet is in full attack formation. They are charging their weapons. Weapons officer, Day said quietly. Are our defensive systems ready? Yes, sir. All systems are green. Good. Lieutenant Park, please send a message to Admiral Korvex. Park nodded and opened the communication channel. Captain Day's voice transmitted clearly to the alien flagship. Admiral Korvex, this is Captain Kim Day. You are making a mistake. We did not come here to fight. There is no need for violence. The response came back immediately, full of anger and pride. Surrender now, primitive scum, Korvex snarled. You are facing the finest ships in the galaxy. Your pathetic vessel cannot stand against the might of the Council fleet. Submit or be destroyed. Captain Day sighed quietly. He had hoped this would not be necessary, but some lessons could only be taught through demonstration. Admiral, he said calmly, you have powerful ships and skilled crews, but you are fighting yesterday's war with yesterday's thinking. Let me show you what today's warfare looks like. Day turned to his weapons officer. Sergeant Lee Bo, please demonstrate our capabilities. Use Protocol 7. No permanent damage to their ships or crews. Yes, sir. Protocol 7 activated. The human ship launched what looked like a single missile toward the center of the alien fleet. Admiral Korvex laughed when he saw it on his screens. 1 missile against 12 ships, he said to his crew. These humans are even more stupid than I thought. All ships prepare to fire. But the missile did something impossible. As it flew toward the fleet, it suddenly split apart. What had been 1 missile became 10, then 100, then thousands of tiny objects spreading out in all directions like a deadly cloud. What is happening? Korvex demanded. But his crew was too busy staring at their instruments to answer. The thousands of tiny objects were not missiles at all. They were small drones, each one no bigger than a person's hand. They moved with impossible speed and precision, swarming around the council ships like angry insects. Sir, the weapons officer shouted, the drones are attaching to our hull. They are doing something to our systems. Across the fleet, the same thing was happening to every ship. The tiny drones landed on weapon systems, shield generators, and engine components. They worked with surgical precision, cutting specific wires and disabling exact components. Within 3 minutes, every warning light on every council ship was flashing red. Admiral, came panicked reports from all his ships. Weapons are offline, shields are down, engines are at minimum power. Admiral Korvex stared at his instruments in disbelief. His mighty fleet, the pride of the council military, had been completely disabled by what looked like a swarm of toys. This is impossible, he whispered. Captain Day's voice came over the communication system again, still calm and patient. Admiral, your ships are intact. Your crews are unharmed. Your life support systems are working perfectly. We have simply removed your ability to hurt us or run away. In approximately 10 minutes, the drones will return to our ship, and your systems will come back online. How? Korvex asked weakly. You build your ships to be powerful, Admiral. We build ours to be smart. Your weapons are designed to destroy large targets with massive force. Our weapons are designed to disable specific systems without causing unnecessary damage. Which approach do you think requires more advanced technology? The Council fleet hung helpless in space while thousands of tiny drones detached from their hulls and flew back to the human ship like a reverse explosion. As promised, the alien ship systems began coming back online exactly 10 minutes later. Admiral, Captain Day continued, we could have destroyed your entire fleet in the first 30 seconds of this encounter. Instead, we have demonstrated that fighting us would be pointless. Not because we are more violent than you, but because we are more advanced. Admiral Korvex looked around his bridge at his shaken crew. His proud fleet had been treated like children playing with toy boats in a bathtub. What are you? He asked, quietly. We are what your species could become, given enough time and the right motivation, Day replied. We are survivors who learned that the best way to win a fight is to make fighting unnecessary. We are humans, Admiral, and we are not going away. The demonstration was over, but its message would echo through the galaxy. The age of Council dominance had just encountered something it had never faced before, a species that was not impressed by raw power because it had evolved beyond the need for it. The Great Council chamber had never been so quiet. High Chancellor Mordoon sat in his massive throne, looking down at the 2 humans who stood calmly in the center of the room. Around them, representatives from 50 different species whispered nervously to each other. Captain Kim Day and Lieutenant Park Yoon looked small in the enormous chamber, but somehow they did not seem intimidated. They stood with their hands behind their backs, waiting patiently while the most powerful beings in the galaxy tried to decide what to do with them. You have embarrassed our fleet, Chancellor Morden said finally, his deep voice echoing off the walls. You have violated our borders. You claim to represent a species we know is extinct. What proof do you have? Captain Day nodded to Lieutenant Park, who activated a small device. Suddenly, the air above them filled with holographic displays. But these were not pictures of human cities or ships. These were detailed files, charts, and documents that made every council member lean forward in shock. The Velkari Third Fleet, Park said calmly, conducts training exercises in the Proxima sector every 47 days. They always use the same formation and the same approach pattern. Admiral Kexalon prefers to attack from the left flank because he lost his right eye in a battle 20 years ago. Admiral Kexalon, sitting in the Velkari section, gasped. That information was classified at the highest levels. The Centauri Trade Confederation, Park continued, has been secretly selling weapons to both sides in the border dispute between the Hakari and the Vexni. Ambassador Zeltar personally approved the sales to increase profits. Ambassador Zeltar's face turned green with fear. Only 3 people in the galaxy knew about those transactions. The Thexlani mating season affects their diplomatic decisions every 18 months, Captain Day added. During these periods, they become more aggressive and refuse to sign any peace treaties. The Council has learned to schedule difficult negotiations around their biological cycles. The Thexlani representative stood up angrily. How dare you know such private things about our people? Chancellor Morden, Park said, looking directly at the leader, your family has controlled the chancellorship for 6 generations. Your youngest son is studying to be a doctor on the colony world of New Kelmar, but he wants to be an artist. Your wife grows flowers from her home world in a secret garden behind your palace. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Chancellor, Morden's personal life was supposed to be completely private. Security around his family was absolute. Silence, Morden roared. The chamber fell quiet. How do you know these things? Our security is perfect. Our communications are encrypted. Our secrets are protected by the best systems in the galaxy. Captain Day smiled sadly. Chancellor, you still think like a species that believes it is at the top of the food chain. You assume that because you cannot see something, it cannot see you. You are wrong. Lieutenant Park waved her hand and new holographic displays appeared. These showed star maps with small red dots scattered throughout Council space. For the past 200 years, she said, humanity has maintained deep space monitoring stations in every major system in Council territory. These stations are small, quiet, and very difficult to detect. They watch. They listen. They record. Impossible, whispered council member after council member. We have been studying you, Captain, Day said. Every species in this room. Your military tactics, your political systems, your trade routes, your personal habits. We know which of you work together and which of you are enemies. We know your strengths and your weaknesses. But why? Chancellor Morden demanded. Why?
Spy on us for so long? Because we learned from our mistakes, Day replied.
Humans nearly destroyed themselves once through ignorance and fear. We decided never to be ignorant again. When we discovered the Galactic Council, we knew we needed to understand you completely before we revealed ourselves. You have been watching. Hosts like insects in a laboratory, accused the Hakari representative. No, Park said firmly. We have been watching you like students study teachers. We wanted to learn how galactic civilization works, what mistakes to avoid, what successes to copy. Captain Day stepped forward. We know that the Council has a pattern. When a new species is discovered, you study them. You decide if they are useful. If they are dangerous, you eliminate them. If they are useful, you guide them into dependence. You make them need you so they can never threaten you. That is not true, Morden protested, but his voice lacked conviction. The Zathari were explorers, Park said. Now they are farmers who cannot leave their assigned systems. The Vikori were warriors. Now they are merchants who must buy their weapons from Council suppliers. The Malari were scientists. Now they are factory workers who build ships for other species. The chamber was completely silent. Every council member knew these examples were true. What do you want from us? Morden asked quietly. We want something the council has never given before, Captain Day said. We want to be treated as equals, not as children to be guided, not as threats to be eliminated, not as resources to be managed, as equals. And if we refuse? Captain Day and Lieutenant Park looked at each other. Then Park activated her device. One more time. The holographic display now showed space around the Council's homeworlds. Dozens of red dots appeared, much closer than before. Those are human ships, Day said quietly. They have been there for months, watching, waiting. We prefer to negotiate, Chancellor, but we are prepared for other options. The most powerful beings in the galaxy suddenly realized they had been the ones being watched, studied, and evaluated. The hunters had become the hunted, and they had never even known it. The silence in the council chamber stretched on for what felt like hours. High Chancellor Morden stared at the holographic display showing human ships positioned around every major council world. His hands gripped the arms of his throne so tightly that his knuckles had turned white. "What exactly do you want?" he asked finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Captain Kim Day stepped forward, his expression calm but serious. "We want what every thinking species in the galaxy wants, Chancellor. We want to exist. We want to grow. We want to explore and learn and build something better for our children." "That is what the Council provides," Morden said, but his words sounded hollow even to himself. Lieutenant Park Yoon shook her head. "The Council provides control, Chancellor. You decide which species can explore. You decide what they can learn. You decide what they can build. That is not freedom. That is a very comfortable prison." "The galaxy is dangerous," protested Ambassador Thexelon from his seat. "Without guidance, species destroy themselves. Look at your own history." "Our history is exactly why we understand the value of choice," Captain Day replied. "Yes, we nearly destroyed ourselves. But we learned from that mistake, we grew stronger, we became better. That only happened because we were free to fail and free to learn from our failures." Chancellor Morden leaned forward. "What are you proposing?" "Partnership," Day said simply. "Real partnership. Humanity has spent 3 centuries learning to survive in impossible conditions. We have technologies that could benefit every species in this room. Medical advances from living in radiation, engineering solutions from building and crushing gravity, agricultural methods that work on dead worlds. And in return?" asked the Velkari representative. "We want access to your knowledge," Park said. "Your art, your culture, your scientific discoveries. But we want it as equals, not as dependents. We want to trade with you, not be managed by you." "Impossible," said the Centauri ambassador. "The Council cannot have equals. There must be order. There must be hierarchy." Captain Day smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Ambassador, the Council already has equals. You just never knew it. Humanity has been your equal for over a century. We simply chose not to announce it. You were hiding like cowards," sneered the Hikari representative. "We were preparing," Park corrected. "There is a difference between cowardice and wisdom. A coward runs from a fight. A wise person makes sure they can win before the fight begins." Chancellor Morden stood up from his throne, his massive form towering over the chamber. "And if we refuse your terms? What then?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Captain Day and Lieutenant Park exchanged a look, and something passed between them that made every council member feel suddenly very afraid. "Chancellor," Day said quietly, "we really hope it does not come to that." "But you are prepared for it," Morden stated. "We have been preparing for it for 300 years, Park replied. "Every human child learns basic survival skills before they learn to read. Every human adult knows how to fight, how to hide, and how to rebuild after destruction. We are a species that has looked extinction in the face and refused to die. You are threatening us," accused the Thexelani representative. "No," Day said firmly. "We are explaining reality. The Council has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years because no one could challenge you. That time is over. Humanity exists now, whether you accept it or not. The question is whether we move forward as friends or as something else." Suddenly, every communication device in the chamber began to beep at once. Council members looked at their screens in confusion, then in growing alarm. "What is happening?" Morden demanded. His aide rushed to his side with a datapad. "Chancellor, we are receiving reports from across Council space. Ships are decloaking near every major world, every trade route, every military base. Hundreds of them," Park nodded. "We thought a demonstration might help clarify the situation." "How many ships do you have?" Morden asked weakly. "Enough," Day replied. "But numbers are not the point, Chancellor. We could have used these ships at any time in the past 50 years. We could have conquered Council worlds, destroyed your fleets, taken whatever we wanted. Instead, we waited. We watched. We learned. and now we are offering you a choice. Work with us, Park added, and benefit from what we have learned. Fight us and discover what 3 centuries of preparation for war actually means. The chamber was filled with the sound of nervous breathing and whispered conversations. Council members looked at each other with fear and confusion. The galaxy they had known, the galaxy they had controlled, had just changed forever. You need time to think, Captain Day said, understanding the chaos around him. We will return to our ship and wait for your decision. But understand this. We will not wait forever, and we will not go away. How long do we have? Chancellor Morden asked. 1 standard week, Park replied. 7 days to decide whether you want humanity as a partner or as something else entirely. The 2 humans turned and walked toward the chamber exit. At the doorway, Captain Day paused and looked back. Chancellor, the galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place. We hope you choose to be part of that future. As the doors closed behind them, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were left to contemplate a future where they were no longer the apex predators. Somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity waited patiently for their answer, just as they had been waiting for 300 years. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human partnership was about to begin.